Business Marketing Technology Pathway students, specifically multimedia, welcome. It's Monday, and this is another brilliant tutorial by me, Mr. Cheney. We are continuing the ColorWheel project assignment, and so the intro tutorial number 1 that's already attached to this assignment now kind of explains what the ColorWheel is. Hopefully a reintroduction, because most people in elementary school have gone over this in terms of just like the primary colors and maybe even secondary colors. We're going to go into a little more in depth as far as color wheel and color theory, and we're going to build our color wheel with kinetic typography movement like the prior assignment on a PowerPoint slide. So today's tutorial, number 2, I want to explain just really briefly what RGB color codes are, because we're going to be using those to change the color of our wheel components. And just want to kind of briefly show you the difference between RGB and CMYK, and then at the very end I want to show you how to build the wheel, kind of a little shortcut on how to build it instead of doing it one circle at a time and trying to line it up by your the naked eye. So there's ways to use PowerPoint to make this easier, so let's go through it. So just very briefly, I want to go through this very quickly since it's a video and you can pause and rewind and everything else. RGB over here on the left, and then CMY, and then K would be the slider, but the color is actually black. So the two main differences between these two, and you may have heard these terms before, but RGB is used basically for digital stuff, and CMYK is used for print stuff. So basically it's for liquid crystal diodes, which is LCD screens, old school stuff like cathode ray tube stuff. So the numbers 0 to 255 means that there's 256 brightness levels. So you're going to see that when we get into changing the colors in the PowerPoint. So like a 000 would be like totally black, and then a 255 would be totally white. Okay, so with all those numbers, if you were to multiply 256 times 256 times 256, you would get over 16 million color potentials. Whereas on the CMYK for the printing side, okay, it's not that way. So 0% would be white, and then 100% black dots all over the entire paper would be black. And you only get 1 million. I mean, a million is a lot of colors, but it's not as much as 16 million, obviously. So again, RGB, red, green, blue, is for computer monitors, it's for emails, websites, CDs and DVDs, television, office, home printers, all digital files. CMYK is mostly for printing, so posters, billboards, glossies, business cards, brochures, and other traditional media. The strengths for RGB, best for on-screen or digital viewing. You can adapt it to basic home printing. Color manipulation is really easy when you're using stuff like Photoshop, like we use Photo P online, same thing. And then it's easily convertible to CMYK, so if you have a really cool Photoshop project, convert it to CMYK so that it prints out really well. And so the strengths of printing, obviously, it's for a piece of paper, so they actually make that so that you can have crisper colors on different types of paper. One of the weaknesses of RGB is that sometimes the conversion from RGB to CMYK isn't great, so what you see on the screen isn't exactly what comes out on paper precisely. And a weakness of CMYK is obviously the cost, because ink is very, very expensive. Okay, so the verdict, digital, RGB wins for digital, CMYK wins for print, and that's the story. Here's just kind of a color theory thing that kind of summarizes all of that, telling you that CMYK is actually a subtractive process, RGB is an additive process, shows you some relationships on both. So here's where we went through primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. Here you've got some meanings, which is kind of interesting. This will kind of go through as far as how well do we know the color wheel, because we're going to build one. And now we are to the actual building process. So here's a slide that I've already built the shapes for. I don't know why I did it twice, but I'm actually going to delete both of these and start over so I can show you exactly how to do it from the beginning. So let's add a slide. Actually, I want to open this up in the desktop app. That's what I want to do. There we go. And then I'm going to add slide here. So make sure you're on the app on your computer when you do this. So first thing I want you to do, and it won't be that way at first, is you want to go to View. You want to see your guides, which divides your slide in half both ways. You want to see your grid lines, because that's how we're going to determine the size of our shape. And ruler actually helps too, because that's going to help us lay out where the shapes need to be. So we're going to insert one shape, and it's going to be a circle. And if I don't hold my shift key, this circle can get flat or oblong and weird, so I don't want to do that, so I'm going to not do that. I'm going to insert my shape again, and before I start making my shape, I'm going to hold down the shift key so that my circle always maintains the circle shape. So I'm going to make it about as big as one of these squares, so that's pretty good. And then I'm going to go to the ruler, and I'm going to be at the 3, and I'm going to center it as best I can on the grid lines. And then I'm going to Control C, Control V for copy paste. Then I'm going to go down here to the 3 on the ruler down here, and those red lines actually help me guide this. And then I'm going to Control V again, go to the 3, the vertical 3 here, and kind of center this as best I can. Control V one more time, go to the 3 on the ruler. The red lines are guiding me again, so you see the arrows from the both edges of the paper. Tells me that I'm equidistant, so that's good. So I got 4 shapes, and then I'm going to make these a group. So I'm going to hold down my Control key as I click all 4 of these shapes, and that's going to make all of them highlighted, or a little shortcut. You could just kind of go like that, and they're the same thing. And I'm going to right click on one of these squares here so that I can group it. So now I've got a group of 4 circles that I can move like this. Okay, so put it in its original position. So now here's the tricky part. I'm going to Control C, Control V all 4. And now I got a second set of 4. I'm going to line them up, and I'm going to rotate like so. And then I'm going to Control V one more time and line it up with the originals and rotate. And now I have pretty good little circle of circles, and you need 12 dots, and they're pretty equidistant using our guidelines. And that's it. We've got ourselves a color wheel. Now, one thing that I did forget to do, and you don't have to do this, but what I prefer to do for me is, since we're going to be making these different colors, I think colors show up on a black background or a dark background a little better than white. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my background to black. Then I can start changing these colors. So the next tutorial will show you kind of how to change colors, but I'll do one really quickly. So this top one is going to be red. So if I were to show you the color wheel assignment, here's an example of what the finished color wheel looks like. So our primary color of red is right here. So if I wanted to do, just change that to a true red, not just by like clicking it on a palette, but by actually making it the RGB red, the 255, 0, 0. That's what I'm going to show you. So I click on the one shape, and I'm going to go to Shape Format, and I'm going to go to Shape Fill, and instead of choosing one of these colors, I'm going to go to More Fill Colors. And right here is my RGB values right there. So if I want red, I want the maximum value of red, and I want 0 green, and I want 0 blue. And that's going to give me the truest red that there is. So I can press OK on that, and there we go. Now I've got my red. And I can do the same thing for green and blue, because those work the same way, because they're going to be the truest forms of themselves. So green and blue, we can go do the same thing. So while we're here, we might as well do it. So I'll go back to my wheel, and this was green, I believe. So if I go to Format or Shape Format, Shape Fill, More Fill Colors, red's going to be 0, green's going to be 255, and blue is going to be 0, and that's going to give me my true green. And then I believe blue was right here, and shape format, we're good. Shape fill, we're going to go to more fill colors, and red is going to be 0, and green is going to be 0, and blue is going to be 255. Okay, and that gives me my true blue. And so now we're good. Now to get the rest of them, so to move on from here to get the rest of the colors, I believe I gave you a website that actually helps you find it. So I believe this website, nope, different one. It's this website. Yes, I can go to primary and secondary colors, and we already have blue, we already have red, and so now yellow, orange, and purple, we're going to use these RGB codes. So yellow is 255, 255.0, orange is 255, 1020, and purple is 1020, 255. So you would do those for the dots. And then there are, that other website actually helps us figure out the tertiary colors as well. So if we want red, orange, or is it orange, red? Orange, red. There's orange, red, and it actually gives us our RGB color code right there, and so on. So that's for tertiary colors. So that's it for this tutorial. The third tutorial will actually start to go into like some of the animation stuff again, but this will give us enough to work in stage 2. See you back in class.